So probably one of my favorite things in the recent times was the Tinder Swindler, which I watched. And so this guy, he basically, it comes out after the Tinder Swindler. I'm sure everyone knows about it by this point, but he swindled all these women out of all these things. Me and Danny both watched it.
I don't know if it was a swindle.
Well, this is what he does. He breaks his silence, and then he says he wasn't swindled. So in the thing, this has been one of my favorite probably things in the last 5 years, is in the movie, his whole thing is his enemies are after him, right? So all I've been doing for the last 3 weeks is every time I'm like, babe, you got to pay for this, my enemies. I can't. I was like, you have to go get the remote. My enemies are after me. I know I can't make the bed. My enemies. You don't know what it's like. You got to go get the food. The Uber Eats is here. I can't go down there. My enemies are after me.
Yeah, I love it.
It's so funny.
Dude, the balls on this guy.
He tells her everything. He goes, I need 10 grand. And then she gives him 10 grand. He goes, I need you to get more money out. Why? My enemies. Everything is because of his enemies are after him. It's probably one of my favorite things in the history of 5 years is that
also
his enemies are always after him.
There's probably for this one dude who bilked a bunch of women, there's probably like 5,000 women who did the exact same thing to guys.
Oh,
and they weren't
enemies.
like I need 10 grand, my enemies are after me. They're like, I need 10 grand. They're like, why? Like, I want it.
Well, my enemies are after me. Who are your enemies? American Express creditors. My landlord.
Yeah, exactly. Your enemies are all just bill collectors. My enemies are after me.
My enemies are after me. I need to pay them. Who's your enemies? My landlord. American Express. My makeup bill collection. Yeah.
I was looking into his Cameo because he's on Cameo now too. Because I was like, we should get a Cameo, but
a Cameo
for the
Tinder
pod.
Swindler's amazing. How much does he want?
$2,000.
Oh, he's Swindler.
Well, they're $200 for a personal one, but if he thinks it's like a business thing or whatever, they're $2,000.
He can tell the difference.
Well, he knows you're not just wishing someone a happy birthday.
Well, notorious Tinder Swindler breaks his silence to slam made-up Netflix documentary as his model girlfriend accuses his victims of lying and that he stole $430,000 from them and says he's never borrowed money from him. So,
because there was no promise to repay in his mind.
This is what
this is a gift.
But you said he went to jail, right?
He went to jail, as far as I understand, for using a fake passport, and that's what he got arrested for.
Well, I'll tell you what.
No, he definitely did all this shit. Like for him to say, "Hey,
Danny's enemies were after him."
I know, but for him to be like, "Hey, yeah, I never said I was like a billionaire," or something. You're like, you're using a fake name that happens to be the same name. Like you're not disputing the fact that your name's Simon Levive when that's not your real name. You didn't legally change it to that, and then you're like, there's this billionaire who has the same name. Like,
well, I've dated people that are pathological liars. No one like too serious.
Yeah.
But in the party scenes or whatever back in the day or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And the number one thing I notice about people that are pathological liars is and I guess this is obvious, to go down with the lie, but there's no amount of evidence that will ever get them to concede. Like you could be, you were at this party last night, and you go, no, I wasn't there. And you go, here's a picture of you last night with the newspaper. And they go, I don't know, someone must be made that up because it wasn't me.
Yes, they go, you can Photoshop anything.
That's what the biggest thing that I've noticed is they will go down. They'll never admit it. And the truth is, with people's psychologies, even, me a little bit, you go, if someone's that sure and will never admit, it does leave the seed of doubt in people's mind.
That's literally I guess that's the whole thing of gaslighting, where like something's the truth, and then.
But that's the biggest thing of liars like this and scam artists. They will always stick with their lie until the bitter end. But this guy,
amazing, he can still just like wheel chicks and stuff. Like, he
has a pretty hot chick, but
I know. Well, and she doesn't believe it. She bought the lie, right? He successfully gaslit her.
Well, or she doesn't care because he actually does have money and he's buying her things.
And he's kind of like this funny, famous dude right now.
Now he's this funny, famous Martin Shkreli style, big, famous dude, right? And these girls are his new enemies.
Like, are there many guys who are like, fuck that guy? Maybe like some, but like most guys.
Seth Rogen probably doesn't love
probably, but like most guys are probably just like,
it's funny. Well, it's funny. It's just such that it probably happens the other way so many times, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But these
salt daddy of the decade.
He's the salt daddy of his decade. These other girls. I mean, it is kind of sad when you look at some poor sap that he stole 100
for sure.
grand.
That part is obviously.
But this is where you kind of go. The problem with this guy, you go, if you stole $5 grand here, 10 grand there, although those are terrible, they're not like devastating necessarily.
Yeah.
It could be for someone. I'm not saying for no one, but it is still one of those things where, you know, this at some point will be like, remember that time I got scammed out of $5,000? When you steal someone's entire life savings and put them in 80 grand of debt.
Oh, 250 for the one.
Right. So that's
she has no
level.
choice but to probably
That's when like the
bankruptcy.
guys steal from the old people and stuff. It is the ultimate scumbag move.
No, it is obviously a scumbag move. And then, but it's funny because watching, I think a lot of girls, like my girl was saying this, but you know, I'm sure tons of them were like, I would never do that. Like, what the fuck? Like
every girl says that's wouldn't be.
But
her,
also like the one main girl who gave him 250K, like they were dating for like a month. Like the whole thing was like a month long, and then he had seen her like a couple times.
He brought her around he showed her the good life.
He gave her, well, he tricked her because he gave her that first initial, like, you know, going on the private jet or whatever. And he had the social proof with his baby mama and the kid.
He knew the technique.
He knew the whole technique or whatever. But then he's like, he saw her like 2 more times. And she's like, this is my boyfriend. I'm in love with him. We're going to spend the rest of our lives together. And I'm going to give him all this money, and he keeps like doing this, and then like,
and they have the voice notes of him
for sure.
You know,
like,
so they do have the voice notes where he's.
I mean, I don't
back to back where, you know, the one girl that stole his clothes at the end, and she was pretty happy with herself for getting a little win there.
Yeah.
And then she goes, she showed all the voicemails, and the thing in the voicemails will be like, I'm going to kill you. You do not fuck with me. Every action has a reaction. And then the next voicemail will be like, okay, we can get through this. And then the next voicemail is like, I'll fucking kill you. You know?
So Happy Gilmore or whatever, where he's like, you fucking, oh, baby, I'm sorry.
Oh, baby, I'm sorry. You know, I don't mean that.
Yeah.
So I think that probably this new girl, I don't think it's that she's so in love with him and that she doesn't care. I think probably what's happening is he still does have some money or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's buying yachts and jets. And she's thinking like,
it's fun.
yeah, I just know that I won't lend him money.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, it's a pretty easy thing. He's like, hey, can you take out a credit card? And she's like,
right,
no.
because, well, she's just not going to loan him money, and then, that's all you have to do. Because if he came out now and he goes, this is completely unrelated, but my enemies are back.
It's so funny, too, just how we are as a society, where this came out, and this is like so damning and so just like such a gotcha, and then he's like, yeah, I'm famous now. This literally solved all my problems. Like
it really is.
He goes, now I'm going to be rich and famous.
He's going to be rich. And then he also said, he goes, I'm a legit businessman. I got into Bitcoin in 2011 when it was nothing. I don't need to say how much it is worth now. So when in doubt, go for crypto. And this is what this guy's saying now. And he's trying to get a dating show, which I think he should get a dating show with one of the hood meme pages.
The crazy thing is, and I would love to get a real to the bottom of this, is why has he not, like, what is the law? Like, why has he not been charged with anything related to any of this? Why is there no?
Well, you told me that you said it's because there was no contracts or anything like that.
That's what I think, is that there's just like, you can't, it's not, I guess. I haven't seen really anybody discuss like why he hasn't faced 0 repercussions for this.
I know.
Because we talked about it and you were like, well, you still have a verbal agreement. And then in his like texts and stuff, there seems to be some sort of element.
Text agreement.
And
then he made the girl the fake thing saying that she worked at his company to get the loan.
Fraud.
So he was at very least an accomplice to this fraud.
But he committed a fraud. He sent her like a fake wire, a fake like, so that has to prove that he was attempting to do this.
Right. Unless Netflix just totally made it up.
Possible.
So you can't trust these people, right? These big tech companies, which are getting blasted right now.
No, you cannot trust them.
And the girl version of that, because there's all these, is the Anna Delvey. And so Anna Delvey was this girl who kind of did the same thing, and she actually did go to jail or whatever, right? And I watched that one, and the thing about that is, and then we'll move on, is what I don't like about the Netflix version is I when I was watching this, I felt like I knew a lot of girls like this, and
Swindlers?
It was just interesting to see the dynamic where you got to think of this girl and the guy as almost the same thing. The guy was swindling all these girls out of money, and this girl was swindling all these people out of, all different things, trying to swindle this banker. She swindled, some rich girl out of money. She went and stayed on this girl's yacht for 6 days while the girl was getting billed for it without her knowing. All this sort of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And in the Tinder Swindler, they make him as this evil, terrible person. And in the girl one, they make her as like pretty empowered
It's
that she
more
was
like-
able to pull this off.
It's kind of like a Catch Me If You
They
Can.
do it
thing
like
where
Catch
they
Me
go-
If You Can.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to watch how Netflix treats basically the same type of story, guy versus girl.
Yeah, women are victims in that matter.
And it's whatever, they're allowed to do that, but it also was wrong because like I said, I know a ton of these kind of girls. They're always up to these scams or whatever, right? And the number one thing that happens is, first of all, they're always in fights. So they always start some business relationship, and within 6 months, it's always in a big fight, right?
So they do have the enemies. They can back that part up.
So they have enemies, but the thing is, that's not usually a good formula for being successful. And this girl does disastrous things, makes all these messes of her life, makes messes of her personal life, make messes of her connection. The 2 or 3 biggest people she had in her life all hate her now, all this stuff, right? But they were kind of saying like, yeah, but isn't she so like empowered, taking the bull by the horns? And you go, well, if they were, they wouldn't have been so lousy at it.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, most of it didn't work. She got caught. She didn't get the bank loan. She didn't open up her thing. All she did was swindle people into sort of giving her trips and stuff.
Yeah, she got kind of like close to it,
Yeah,
but she
so
didn't. Yeah.
really the story is this girl got people to accept that she was like in their club so they could go party and hang around or whatever, and got some people to give her money. So
Basically, men are better at swindling.
Well, this guy got caught too eventually.
Well, but he got caught for not the swindling. He got caught for the flying on
I'm saying they're
passport.
kind of the same thing, but this girl was, just a
Her
standard.
thing seems like, I actually thought that was, because it's basically like that, what's that Will Smith movie from like the 90s where...
Bad Boys.
No, not 6 Degrees of Separation. Maybe
Wild
6
Wild
Degrees.
West.
Where he pretends to be like the Sidney Poitier's like son or something, and he's like scams the socialites in New York, and they're like...
Yeah, there's something to be said about
There's a lot
scamming
of
them.
those stories.
And they basically... the biggest funny part is the boyfriend is like this Indian dude that's ripped, shredded tech dude.
Yeah.
And then if you look up the real photo of him, it's like this tiny nerdy Asian dude with big like Coke bottle glasses. So funny.
Not cool, Netflix. Not cool.
Yeah.
Stop
But
Asian hate.
I love the idea. The whole thing was she was like, I'm into art, right? Which is a good one to pick because it's the most bullshit nonsense, right?
Yeah, that's, I think, the same with the Will Smith one was he was in art.
Yeah,
too.
that's the biggest one. I was loving the idea that if you think of modern art, right? That's the only thing in the world that you can just say modern in front of it. It sucks. Because you know how they used to do Nuit Blanche in Toronto when it was modern art exhibits, right? And essentially you would be a couple pop cans attached to a Bristol
it's the
board.
shittiest-
It's stuff a child would make, right?
Yeah, all the crap
and then
is
me and Waldo and Jared and some other people got drunk one night and went to the art gallery. And then we would talk to other people about the paintings as if we wrote them. And then we would be like, this one, and then we were telling them, and this represents capitalism and that. And they would be like, oh, that's so interesting. And we had people all fished in, right? And then sometimes we would get them fished in. And they go, there was one that just had a bunch of Rolo, the candy wrappers on a bunch of Bristol board. And people would come over and they, oh, that's nice. And then I go, and then my favorite one was we did this a couple times. We go, yeah, dude, I got to be honest. I just got baked last night. I had to put an exhibit together for Nuit Blanche.
Dude, bang this out.
I whipped this shit up in 15 minutes. Dude, it's just popsicle sticks. And we were telling them, and they go, "Oh, I couldn't even tell," because they'd already said they thought it was brilliant.
Exactly. So they're like, yeah, they can't go back on it.
You can watch the arts bullshit, the people pretending to like the arts bullshit. Like, what other job could you do that at? Where you go into a place, you go, "Hey, I'm hiring an accountant," and he goes, "Oh, I'm actually a modern accountant." He just sort of ruffles around the papers.
Modern.
He just sort of, he just gives you a bunch of weird papers back that he wrote crayon on them. They go, "I'm a modern accountant." There's no other job. Modern
Banksy.
just,
there's a few like good ones. I guess.
Some artists.
The Banksy is the best where he fucking shredded.
He's not a modern artist though. He's like a street artist.
Yeah, but he would. I don't know. Art
No,
that
modern
well.
art is when it's just
Isn't
like
modern art
rubbish.
just like after. Oh,
You know what I mean?
After a certain time.
Well, I guess I'm not an
I don't know.
expert, but
you're
from what I
just saying, like,
understand of
just
these
the
modern art,
avant-garde, like just
it's avant-garde bullshit.
children trash.
It's legitimately pieces of garbage.
Well, there's that thing where they'll do like on one of those hidden cam shows where they'll get like a monkey at the zoo to paint a painting, and then they like put it at a prestigious art gallery just to fucking make everybody.
A
look
big
like
thing they do
idiots.
is to fight capitalism and stuff like that. It'll be like the McDonald's sign upside down.
Dude.
They're like upside down things.
So I'm not going to say the name of this, but my brother used to have an art gallery.
I forgot about that.
And he had this artist who had a lot of like stuff was like, he's like kind of a famous artist, but like a lot of his paintings were like anti-capitalism. And he had one piece actually where I think there is the upside down McDonald's in it. There's actually the thing I'm thinking of. And he had it at the gallery and it was all like capitalism bad. It's this big painting that's like, basically the theme of the painting, capitalism bad, 150 grand.
Really? Capitalism
sucks, but
you're right. That's so funny. You're right from all angles. The artist making 100 grand or whatever, the gallery, the person buying it. It's just
like, is this going to be like $150,000 charitable donation or?
You're right. It's a scam from start to finish.
Yeah, it's just like it's hard to just be like, I hate capitalism, and then just be selling your shit for
literal garbage.
It's like it was a nice painting, but he could also sell it for 30 grand. It doesn't have to be 150 grand. He's just like that's what
he priced it at.
That's what he priced it at. I don't think he sold it.
The upside down stuff's incredible. Fellas, thank you for watching that clip. Now, if you want to support this podcast, an easy way to do it is patreon.com/theboyscast. There's a new episode every week, only 5 bones, and we got tons of episodes there already. So support the dogs.
Support the dogs. I've been Bowen Yang.